Hello everyone. I'd like to start this video with a story. A dog who thought he was very smart stole a steak. He ran away with it, but stopped to rest on a bridge overlooking a small river. As he looked over the edge, he thought he saw another dog looking back at him. Thought the dog. That dog has a nicer looking steak. Maybe I can scare him, and he'll drop the steak and I can have it. This seemed like the perfect plan. But when the dog opened his mouth to bark, he dropped his steak into the water and lost it. The lesson being to be satisfied with what you have. For the dog was barking at his own reflection and got greedy. This is one of Aesop's fables, a classic literary set of stories. And when these were being read to my kids tonight, this Karl Jobst video that I was already going to do a reaction video to, it applied so well. And we'll get to why it applied so well, but it really applies to what we're finding out about Jirard and the Khalil family. And I will get into, because my videos started after the whole drama. I had thoughts on the drama. I felt for Jirard and everything, but this most recent video has me less empathetic for Jirard, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. So we'll get started with Karl's video. If you have not watched Karl's video, or if you are not a fan or a subscriber of Karl, I would recommend that you do head over and do that. He usually does a lot of content around speedrunning history and speedrunning revelations and cheaters in speedrunning. But he does have a series with Jirard and other series, and everything he puts out is high quality. So I would recommend that you go subscribe to him. But with that, let's get started on exactly what he's talking about today.
Legends. Can you believe it? It's already been more than a year since the completionist and his family's decade-long charity scam was exposed last November. For those who need a quick refresher, between the years of 2014 and 2023, Jirard and his charity, the Open Hand Foundation, took in around $1 million of donations, money that they said was going to various charities focusing on dementia research. But over that entire time, the truth was that they hadn't donated a single penny, and had kept everything. It was only after Mudahar and myself made our videos about the situation that the Open Hand Foundation finally donated some of the money, donating $600,000 to the AFTD. The completionist public image was pretty much destroyed, and deservedly so. He had been lying for years, and after he was exposed, he took no accountability whatsoever. He made up excuses, made up lies, and more than anything was just angry at...
Okay, so I'm going to pause that right there, because... So the way that this went, they had a call with Jirard after they discovered that the taxes weren't lining up. After that, they released their videos, which I think it was like an hour for each of them on each of their videos. And then Jirard, a couple months later, released a video where he basically said, we did nothing wrong, we didn't do anything that was ethically wrong, and in fact, we're talking to lawyers about suing Karl and Mudahar. My opinion, so what I was gathering from things that Karl and Mudahar had put out was that Jirard wanted to. He's always been seeking approval of his dad, and I empathize with that. Wanting your parents' approval is a huge thing. His mom's no longer with him. I feel bad for the situation. But at a certain point, you're an adult fucking man. You've got to grow up. You've got to look at yourself and what your dad is doing. And specifically, whenever he tells Karl and Mudahar that he became aware that they hadn't donated anything, at that point, you have to stand on your own morals. Getting the approval of someone who's a scumbag is, at the end of the day, not worth sacrificing. Literally, his entire life is now over. It's done. There's never going to be a way to come back from all the stuff that we're seeing. And with that, it's just, it's the final showdown. The final curtain is going on Jirard. It was a tragedy to see how fast and how bad things went down. Because I was a completionist fan. I would watch the completionist videos. Whenever I was doing things like laundry or work or things like that, I would even sometimes just go through completionist videos, just like rewatching Shovel Knight or rewatching Star Fox or rewatching whatever the videos that I liked were. I would rewatch them because he seemed authentic, he seemed likable, he seemed like a good guy. Then everything comes out, and at a certain point, you have to say, look, I'm trying to get this donated. It is all my brother and my dad. If that's how it actually is going down, you have to say it. Your trust ability with the netizens is purely based on your and their interaction. Your dad and your brother do not matter. In fact, what he chose to do caused it to get worse. All of us no longer trust him at all because he would rather lie to us in order to defend his father and brother than to actually be truthful with us and have a little bit of beef with his dad and brother, who are potentially going to have federal charges, because we'll get to that a bit later in Karl's video, but they might be having federal charges brought against them. And if they actually were embezzling funds, see, here's the thing. Jirard may be innocent of the embezzling funds. He may be. I don't know exactly what the legality of it all is. But the key is that if his dad and brother were hosting the golf tournament and then keeping all the money themselves that was supposed to be donated to Open Hand Foundation, if those two were pocketing the money and Jirard wasn't pocketing anything other than taking the like reimbursements for what it costs to run Indieland, at that point I would say, okay, Jirard was being stupid, not understanding how important his wording was whenever he would say that the one video game channel paid for the charity and everything that was donated was going to Open Hand Foundation. At that point, it's, hey, you're being stupid by saying these words. They actually matter in the legality of this, but could be excused. At the point of his brother and his dad, though, the evidence that was shown in the previous videos was that none of the golf money was getting to the charity at all after Indieland started in, I think it's 2017 that Indieland started, but basically the golf charity was just for lining their pockets if what we're seeing is to be believed. I still really, really, really want to see specific, like, I want the books opened, which is, that's exactly what I think should have happened whenever this whole thing went down. Jirard should have said, look, we've been running the charity. I apologize. The money has not been donated. We're going to donate it in full in the next month. I should not have lied to you. It was wrong. I apologize. I take full responsibility for that. I was just afraid that if I had told you all that we hadn't donated the money yet, you guys wouldn't have the drive to donate, and it would lose all of the energy behind it. So I wanted to keep the energy high and the momentum going until we found a place to donate. At that point, he should have said, I invite Karl or Mudahar to sit with me and go through our accounting books with our accountant. Because according to Jirard, he was never actually like involved in the money side. So he would run his charities and get the eyeballs on the charity, and then he would pass the money along to his dad and brother and go, there you go, we're all good. And he never looked at the accounting books. I'm curious if that was a lie or if that was true, because he lies multiple times along his path. So I don't have the ability to trust his word anymore. But he could have saved face very well by just saying, look, we'll sit down together, we'll go through the books. I haven't seen them either. Let's find out what happened. And then they could find out actually how much money came from where, when it came in, where it went, what happened with it. Because I'm sure that Karl and Mudahar would be able to actually put together what happened with this. Would have been a great opportunity for him to save all the face and to put absolute transparency with the Open Hand Foundation. Because now the Open Hand Foundation has zero transparency. Zero, zilch, none. It is dead in the water. It will barely get any money ever again. Because people do not trust him. They do not trust the foundation. And it's going to be an absolute tragedy. But we'll get to more of that stuff in a minute. But he just could have handled this so much better if instead of choosing to lie to defend his father and brother, especially when he knew he had already been caught. It's like being caught with a bag of drugs in your pocket and going, that's not mine. It's like, it's in your pocket, dude. You've already been caught. Lying is not helping you. And then instead saying, look, I wasn't aware. I was fighting my father and my brother on getting this stuff donated for the last 2 years, and I wanted to donate it. Because if that's the truth, that you actually wanted to donate the money, and they were stopping you because you're only 1/3 of the parties, at that point, everyone will understand, hey, Jirard is only 1/3. He does not have controlling stake of this charity. He's not able to make the charity do anything. It would have been even better if he'd have blown the whistle earlier, whenever he found out. That would have been terrific. But he didn't. Because I think he was hoping it would stay under the rug until either he decided he was done doing Indieland, or he decided that he was able to get it donated somewhere. Although, I do have one final point. In Jirard's reaction video or response video, he says he's no longer doing any charities of any sort. He's done, blah, blah, blah. Dude, people lost trust in your charity, in your Open Hand Foundation. Do charities, but instead of collecting the money yourself, host the charity event, have the people come on, and then have people go to a third-party URL for donations. It's not going to you at all. At that point, you know what you get to do? You get to say, hey, there's no money mixing at all, but the money is definitely getting to these Alzheimer's Foundation organizations, whichever ones they are. And at that point, like, I've done a charity live stream way back in the day for the kids hospital. I'm suddenly not able to think of it. But you can do a charity event that is actually just, the money goes straight to where it's supposed to go. It doesn't need a third party. Third parties are nothing but a drain on it, because at that point you're going to have, I get that he wanted to have something in his mother's name, something to put a permanence to her since she was gone so early for him, and I seriously feel for that, but you can't use that as a defense for doing something wrong now. Like, it sucks. I get it, and I really feel for Jirard. I don't know enough about his brother or his dad, but I really feel for Jirard, because when he's talked about his mom in, like, the Shovel Knight episode, it actually feels like you can feel he had pain in his life. And so, with that, it's just, he handled everything making the wrong decision and saying the wrong things. And whatever lawyer told him to say the things he did in his response video should be fired immediately, because it is the worst response he could have ever done. And it has cost him his entire company at this point.
Thus, for making the public aware of what he was doing. and it didn't take long for the completionist to return to YouTube and continue making content. After his terrible response video, he just moved on and acted as if this entire charity scandal never happened. And his family moved on and didn't care whatsoever either. They even held another golf charity event several months later. This was immediately after it was already proven that for years the golf charity money had never even made it to the Open Hand Foundation. The family
people that are this gold tier and this platinum tier, they're paying $8,000 to be on this. So we know that they got at least $16,000 right there. We know that they got another $7,500 right there. Was there
charity event several months later? This was immediately after it was all.
It's just that. So we know that they got at least, let's see, 16 plus 7.5 is $23,500 off of that. $23,500 off of just those three that we can see right there.
Charity money had never even made it to the
Open. There's more. Gold. Look at that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at 6,500. That's another 36,000 plus. I rounded down, actually. It's actually $39,000 just from those. I can't see what the titanium is, but it's probably like $5,000. The point is, they made, let's see here, we had 23.5 plus 39. That's already over $55,000. It's getting close to 60 grand just from what we can see on the banners.
Hand Foundation. The family was keeping everything. But then, around 4 months ago, the completionist disappeared. And there might be a good reason for this. The completionist production company, That One Video Entertainment LLC, is in huge trouble. I've never spoken about this, but for the past 2 years, the completionist company has been engaged in a frivolous lawsuit against the biggest GTA Online roleplay server, NoPixel, basically trying to extort them for half of their company. And in October, they lost. And now Jirard's company may have to pay back hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees. And the cherry on top of all of this is that it appears as though the Open Hand Foundation might now be under investigation by the IRS. A lot's been happening, and in today's video, we will take a quick look. I really hope you enjoy.
We're gonna skip the sponsorship because
now it's available for free on PC.
He has a sponsorship with Watcher of Realms for their stuff. I'm trying to catch back up on time a little bit.
Android, and iOS.
Before we start today's video, I want to recognize that I know that I have lost a lot of your trust at home.
Yeah, lost a lot of trust.
Back in January,
wrong moves in every
hoping
single
to
way.
resuscitate his brand. The quality, however, was now greatly diminished because most of his employees either quit or he let them go. And then in August, he released a video about alien isolation and has...
See, that's one of the things that really... So I guess that they were actually talking in the original video about Jirard's channel having money issues, which does not make sense to me. You need one editor for a video, because he did one video a week. One video a week. I believe it was one video a week. I get that he takes a lot of time to play that game to completion, because I am a natural completionist myself, which is why I gravitated towards his channel. I want to find all the collectibles. I want to do all the side quests. I want the game to be completed to the fullest extent I can complete it. But a YouTube channel should be able to operate with one person and one editor. I'm not even going to touch on all the stuff with his ex-college friend that was a business partner originally. He should not have had this slim of margins that he couldn't do that. He couldn't keep it going. But it's very, very suspicious and questionable that right after it was revealed that Open Hand wasn't actually donating the money that they were earning and money was going missing, that all of a sudden after that, now he had to release people from... I'm assuming that they had a contract situation, but he had to let people go right after that. And that is one of the weirdest parts right there.
been seen since. But while Jirard was pretending that everything was hunky-dory on the surface, behind the scenes, shit was hitting the fan. For the past year, many people, including myself, have been waiting for the Open Hand Foundation to file their 2023 IRS tax forms. Personally, I wanted to see if anything changed after they got exposed. Were they suddenly going to start properly declaring their income now that so many eyeballs were focused on their charity? Well, what's interesting is that the Open Hand Foundation hasn't filed their 2023 IRS tax form, despite it being long past the deadline. If you search the charity through the Office of the Attorney General, it says their reporting is incomplete and the IRS form is required. This hasn't happened in any other.
So basically, they, at the end of 2023, so end of last year, they had to complete their tax filing. Well, I guess it was the start of this year, but the point is, they had to complete their tax filing, they had to get that in, and they had to do everything according to IRS code. But because so many people submitted complaints at that point, they now have an issue with, like, so the IRS. Well, I'll let Karl talk
the
for a
year.
second.
The Open Hand Foundation have always filed their forms on time. So it's very peculiar that at a time where it's more important than ever to be transparent, they aren't reporting. Of course, there are multiple possible reasons why they aren't submitting their forms. The most obvious would be they haven't yet done their 2023 accounting, but it could also mean they are currently being audited by the IRS. Personally,
So that's the point right there. So the IRS, if they are doing an audit of them, it means that the Open Hand Foundation would have sent their documentation into the IRS, at which point the IRS says, hey, we're auditing you. This is not a closed file yet, because it will become public once it is closed and finalized. If it is not finalized, because the IRS is now going through them with a fine-tooth comb, trying to find out if they were being proper with the money that they were given by citizenry, at that point, it would stay open. So that actually lends credibility that all the reports to the IRS that everyone was sending in is actually resulting in an actual audit occurring of them, which should have happened from day one. Jirard should have immediately said, Karl or anyone can get a third-party auditing company and send them to us, and we will give them our books, and they can audit to find out exactly what happened. That's what an honest situation would be, especially if Jirard was truthful with his idea of, I had nothing to do with it, I was blindsided by it too, and all that. He should have said, someone else can come audit it. In fact, he should have invited and asked for someone to do it.
I think it's the latter, given how many people reported the charity after the scandal broke. Another piece of evidence to support the fact they are being audited is that it does appear they have already done their 2023 accounting. So there doesn't seem to be any other legitimate reason not to file. We know they've done their 2023 accounting because as part of their 2024 annual charity registration to the Office of the Attorney General, they needed to state their revenue and expenses for the previous year, which they did. And this is where things get very interesting. This form doesn't give us any breakdown like the IRS tax forms would, but it does give us a few basic figures. It says that in 2023, the Open Hand Foundation raised $155,000. This is significant because it's by far the most revenue the organization has ever reported in a single year. The previous highest total was back in 2021 when they raised $136,000, but that was under very different circumstances, so let's compare. In 2021, Jirard's fundraiser Indieland received $113,000 in donations just through Tiltify alone. The charity also received a $25,000 grant from Jamie Lee
So
Curtis's charity.
So how much was it he said right there?
Indieland received $113,000
So $113,000 right
in
there,
donations
plus
just through Tiltify alone.
$136,000.
The charity also received a $25,000 grant from Jamie Lee Curtis's charity, Syzygy. Just these two income sources alone already amount to more than
Oh, he said 113.
the $136,000 they reported, which means all of the bits, subs, merch sales, and all of the golf charity money simply vanished. Jirard's company or his family just took the rest. And
So the idea is that
this pattern of money vanishing continued from the years 2019 all the way through to 2022, a total of 4 years. And the money that went missing probably totaled several $100,000. But in 2023, after the public realized Jirard's family was stealing money, suddenly everything changed. In 2023, Indieland only
I'm amazed that in 2023, after it was all revealed, that they still raised $64,000.
raised $64,000 in donations through Tiltify. This is $50,000 less than in 2021. And yet magically, 2023
And yet they were way higher on this amount.
was the Open Hand Foundation's best year ever, raising
So my personal
$20,000 more than they did in
this
2020.
Is, so all of a sudden, Indieland went way down. It's almost like they said, hey, we're going to report 130 to 150,000 a year. You know, normal, air quotes, amounts. And then, once the Indieland portion dropped off, they continued reporting the same amount. I'm curious, with that golf fundraiser, how much is actually coming in? Is it the $90,000 difference?
He won. It is a miracle. By the grace of God, the Khalil family has finally learned how to properly report their income. It's amazing. We already knew that Jirard and his company were stealing money.
It's a very bad sign. Very bad sign. Whenever your main income for the charity suddenly drops by 50%, and all of a sudden you're getting more money than you've ever gotten. That is a huge red flag. Either they were pocketing almost $100,000 of golf charity money every year and suddenly decided to put it in, or they had pocketed it little by little over the years, and suddenly, now that they've been caught, they start putting money from their pockets back into it to try and balance what should be there. The problem is, an audit will still reveal that the golf charity had X dollars and it never made it to the charity, or that Indieland's side had X dollars come out of it and the golf tournament did put in. We don't know where the money actually came from. No one's seen the books. But that's a big issue right there.
But this most recent accounting is just the nail in the coffin. It is so brazenly obvious that once they were exposed, they decided it would be unwise to continue skimming off the top. And as a result, despite last year being one of Indieland's worst performing years ever by far, the Open Hand Foundation was more profitable than it's ever been. Another interesting thing about this form is that it shows the Open Hand Foundation is still holding on to $200,000.
And that's the other thing. There's no reason for that.
And this is before their 2024 golf charity.
So they had $200,000 in their bank account before they did this year's golf tournament. And then they got another, if it's, you know, if we're led to believe that it was actually $90,000 in 2023, that means it's another $90,000. So that puts them at another almost $300,000 sitting in their bank account. They should have donated so much
charity
more.
Event, where they would have collected even more in donations. Why are they still keeping this money? One thing I've come to realize is that while Jirard may have been very concerned with his public image, his family, specifically his brother and father, couldn't care less. This is why back in May they continued.
One more thing about the original video from Karl regarding, well, actually it wasn't the original video. It was the original series of videos. At one point, Jirard, did his response video threatening lawsuits. And at that point, Karl said something that I'm still curious about to this day. He said that he should basically watch it because he knows now more about the family and things about the family that they wouldn't want to come out. So it's kind of like, hey, don't do that. Like, I will make another video on this And this time it'll be about your dad and your brother and some sort of shadiness about that. And I personally think that if you have that kind of information, it should have been released. I really think it should be. If someone's being a scam artist and conning people out of money in order to just like fraudulently, it is literally fraudulent to say this is for charity and then you pocket it instead. That is fraud. And if you are fraudulently scamming people, you should 100% have whatever your dirty laundry is revealed. As long as it's not like, past what could be publicly obtained. But I'm pretty sure Karl's only getting stuff that could be publicly obtained. So it's just one of those things that people need to know where there are con men. Con men need to be pointed out. We don't need to kill con men or hurt them, but we need people to be aware of them. That's the key.
Continued running their golf charity tournament as if nothing ever happened. If you look at the Open Hands website now, Indieland has been removed as one of the charity events, leaving only the golf tournament. And the golf event was never something that Jirard was a part of organizing. And it's why the Open Hand Foundation now feels comfortable going back to hoarding donations, because the public backlash that was originally directed at Jirard now has nowhere to go. When the Open Hand Foundation made their $600,000 donation after the story initially broke, they still had $200,000 sitting in the bank. And this is only from the reported income. As I said before, I suspect Jirard's family has siphoned hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the charity over the years. But I can't think of a single good reason why they still need to keep $200,000 in the bank, when their expenses average around $10,000 to $15,000 per.
And that's the thing, is every year they only report that they have about $10,000 to $15,000 of expenses. So $200,000 with only $10,000 to $15,000, I could see you keeping $30,000 to $40,000 of the amount for a potentially higher year in case of an issue. But that's the thing. They didn't. They kept way more.
And literally the only purpose of the charity is to be a middleman between Good Samaritans and charities that actually do dementia research.
Like I said earlier, I understand Jirard wanting to put his mom's name on to something, assuming that it wasn't just a con from day one. I mean, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. I know Karl doesn't. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on the idea that from day one, it could have started as a legitimately nice thing, that he wanted to have his mom's name on something. The question is when it turned from that into this con act.
Said before, the lack of filing to the IRS is a pretty good indication the charity is now under investigation, and I really do hope this is the case. But the IRS isn't the only thing Jirard now has to worry about, because Jirard's company that won Video Entertainment has just lost a huge lawsuit.
Man, I wish I'd have made videos.
That One Video Entertainment LLC is the company that Jirard created in 2012 that all of his business activities fall under, including all of his YouTube channels and his charity event, Indieland. I will be calling it TOVE for short. On Jirard's LinkedIn page, he states he is the owner, president, and CEO of TOVE. And in April of 2023, Tove sued GTA Online's most well-known role-playing server, NoPixel. NoPixel is owned by Coil Content Creation Proprietary Limited, which was started by a fellow Aussie, Mitchell Clout, otherwise known online as Coil. If you follow The Completionist, but don't follow GTA Online role-playing, you've probably never heard of this lawsuit. And even if you have, you probably have the wrong idea about who is suing who. And that's because the reporting on this lawsuit has been abysmal and full of misinformation. It all started in May 2023, when a user posted the lawsuit to Reddit, claiming that DW was suing NoPixel. DW was a developer that worked for NoPixel for several years, but he and NoPixel's owner Coil had a falling out in December of 2022, and DW ended his relationship with the server. The day after this viral Reddit post, Dexerto signal boosted the story, with the headline, "Former GTA RP NoPixel server dev DW is suing owner Coil for considerable sum." However, this was all completely false. It wasn't DW that was suing NoPixel, it was the completionist company, Tove. It literally says who the parties are on the first.
So see this. It's Jirard's company trying to sue the biggest Grand Theft Auto 5 role-playing server. And this is why you'll hear me say it over and over. Anytime that you see a news story, you should want to see the sources behind that news story. All these news stories were saying, hey, this DW guy is suing the server. Literally, you wouldn't even have to flip through a single page to see it wasn't actually DW. It was That One Video Entertainment. And anyone who knows Jirard, That One Video is like his key thing. That One Video Gamer, That One Video Entertainment. Like, he puts it in all of his things because he wants a semi-consistent naming scheme. So, always want to see the sources behind it. Don't just take words for it without that person having a proven track record with you. And then if you ever get information from that group that is bad, consider it a strike against them. Consider starting to review their sources again.
First page of the lawsuit. I don't understand how everyone got this wrong. Tove's lawsuit asserted that because DW developed some code for the NoPixel servers and DW was an employee of Tove, this meant that Tove owned the code that DW developed, and thus Tove should own half of NoPixel.
Okay, so this is the big thing. This is where the story comes in. The dog got greedy, wanted to take another dog's stake, and ended up losing their own stake. This is Aesop's fable to a T. That One Video Entertainment is having issues, but I mean, they still were able to operate to a certain degree, and then they see, oh, okay, cool. DW worked on this role-playing server. I'm sure they've got some bullshit line in their contract that says all code you produce is the property of Tove. Here's the thing. Whenever those clauses get placed into a developer's contract, I have one of those with the place I work because I am a software developer. It doesn't apply to all code that is developed outside of work responsibilities. It is saying, hey, you programmed a sign-in page for our website. We own that code for that sign-in page. You can't, whenever you leave, take it with you to another job. It is now our intellectual property. You cannot take it with you. That's what it means. It does not mean, hey, I know on weekends you go home and you make a video game. We own that video game too, so get fucked. That's not how it works. It's never how it's worked. So I'm expecting, or I'm suspecting, that that's the type of argument they tried to use, which just isn't real.
But this entire lawsuit was a shakedown and an extortion attempt from day one. It was all bullshit. We are talking Billy Mitchell levels of frivolous. Everything about this lawsuit was a lie. And it's going to take a separate and quite lengthy video to cover everything in detail. But if you thought that charity was the only scam that Jirard and his company were pulling, you couldn't be more wrong. Needless to say, this lawsuit never made it to trial. In October, the judge ruled in favor of NoPixel, and now NoPixel is seeking attorney's fees of $233,
which would probably be why it was. So they ruled in favor of them, which, if it was presented the way I think it was presented, where they had a part in the contract that said everything you create, everything you program is a part of our intellectual property, and then they tried to extend it to a third party outside of work responsibilities, it would not surprise me at all that the court would go, this is ridiculous. You don't own what they do at home. Get out of here. And then
$3,000,
now being
and
hit
they
for
are probably
lawyer fees.
going to get it. Unlike most other lawsuits in America, when you sue specifically for copyright infringement, it's actually built right into the statute that you can get attorney's fees if you win. And because Tove's lawsuit was so frivolous, and the judge didn't even see a need to go to trial before ruling in NoPixel's favor, Tove is probably going to have to pay up big time. As soon as the judge makes a ruling on the motion for attorney's fees, I will do a full breakdown of this lawsuit, because...
So, basically, this is kind of a teaser. But I am willing to bet that that's what happened. And then, yeah, it's going to be one of these things that because they got greedy, they tried to take the other person's stake, they're now going to lose their stake because they got greedy. If you are every time that you are operating a business, you should operate it as if nothing else exists. You should not depend on outside connections. You should not depend on other things. You should operate your books on a balanced system. You can operate on a deficit for maybe 1 year, but you need to try and figure out how to balance it after that 1 year. And they clearly didn't do that. I'm wondering if they started this lawsuit in an attempt to bolster their books because they were out operating at a deficit. But you need to have ethical core to use. You need to have an ethical core to you. You need to say, I'm not going to take from others. I'm not going to strong arm others. I'm not going to extort others. I'm not going to lie to others. And just, it's so sad to see Jirard go from someone that everyone thought they could trust to this untrustworthy dude that everyone is just like, I don't know what you were expecting, dude. It's not cool. It's not acceptable. He burned all the goodwill he ever earned over a decade of making his videos. All of it was burned and torched in no time at all. Because he didn't take actually any responsibility for anything. He instead immediately pivoted, blamed, and made excuses. And it's not acceptable. If Jirard ever happened to see this, it's a case of, dude, I'm sorry you went through the shit you went through. I wish your mom could have been with you a lot longer. I have family that has dementia and Alzheimer's. I know how it is. It sucks. But you don't lie to people. You don't manipulate people. And if your dad and your brother are doing something wrong, it's your responsibility as a person in this world to stand up and say, they're doing something wrong. Help me fix it. Help me fix it. If your dad's so much of a scumbag that he won't donate the money that you raised, you don't need his approval anymore. And this is coming from someone who still tries to get my dad's approval. But my dad's not doing shit like stealing money from coffers. The most disappointing act my dad has ever done with me is that he found out that someone was embezzling money at his company. And they were in a high up position. And they were firing him. And they basically said, look, you say anything about this, we'll terminate you with nothing. You don't say anything about this, we will give you, I don't remember if it was a 3 months severance package, so that he could actually afford to keep his house. Like I've said, my family's not wealthy. He was afraid that he would lose his house and have his family on the street if he actually didn't get the 3 months. So he made the choice that he thought he needed to make. And I can understand it. Even if, personally, if my dad had come home and said, we are probably going to have to move into a smaller house or an apartment or something like that because I just had to report it, I just had to say something about it, I'd have understood and I'd have seen it totally as understandable. Totally as a good moral thing to do. So, point is, I understand how complicated family is. I understand how shitty dementia is and Alzheimer's. It's all sucky. But you still have to be the better person. You still have to do the right thing. And that is the key. If you ever see this, know that you're not going to be redeemable at this point. But dude, that response video was your downfall. I had hope for you until the threats in that response video. At that point, you lost me. I thought you still had a totally redeemable arc in front of you until you started threatening them. Especially after I heard how you talked on the videos and then had the gall to threaten them with something that you yourself in their video call or in the Skype call were basically saying, yeah, you caught what was going on. So, no. Good luck to you. But you're done.